This is Acadia National Park. I'm at Schoodic Point to make a point. Make more mistakes. I don't care who you are. The best way to make fewer bird identification mistakes is to make more mistakes. Get them out of your system. Keep making a mistake until you stop making that mistake. If you don't make any mistakes, feel free to borrow some of mine. Here's a mistake I made last weekend while guiding for a birding festival up the coast. Seeing what I think I'm supposed to see. I was looking for bay-breasted warbler in a place that I knew they were likely to be, and I heard one out the car window. So we stop, get out, and look, and it's a Cape May warbler. And I'm the expert, and I know the difference, but I expected to see bay-breasted, and I don't know, Cape May just never entered my head. That's what some people call the wishful thinking error, and I make that more than I like to admit. How many times have you been chasing an unusual bird and think you saw it, but you really didn't? In fact, groups are the worst because groups can talk themselves into things that, they really shouldn't. Color is a distraction. How often have you been right at sunrise or sunset and a perfectly ordinary brown bird suddenly looks brilliant amber? Golden hour, suddenly ordinary brown birds look golden. Keep making that mistake until suddenly it dawns on you, oh yeah, golden hour. How many slow-winged raptors suddenly look like swept-wing jet fighters as they're clawing their way into the wind? Well, sooner or later you'll say to yourself, oh yeah, wind. Full disclosure, the other reason I'm here at Schoodic Point is the Acadia Birding Festival begins tomorrow. And I'll be guiding an all-day adventure over here at the Schoodic Peninsula. The easiest way to find birds if you're the guide is to already know where they are. So if you want to come along for the scouting, we'll talk. Walk with me. Here's a mistake I make all the time. This may be my worst. There are troublesome pairs, like a flicker calling and a pileated woodpecker. They're kind of similar. Most people can get it. I have a blind spot. I screw that up. Troublesome pairs, marsh wren and sedge wren, king rail and clapper rail, Caspian tern and royal tern, snowy plover and piping plover, tough one, Nelson's and salt marsh sparrow, and every Empidanax flycatcher. I still mess up parasitic and Pomeranian Jaeger. But anytime you get into these troublesome pairs, just keep making mistakes until you get it right. It took me a long time to get the hang of a fall black-bellied plover versus American golden plover, but pretty much I can do it these days. For all these troublesome pairs, there are certain clues you're supposed to look for to separate them. And half the time I forget what they are. And even if I know what to look for, greater and lesser scaup, I know what the differences are, but in bad light, I still screw it up regularly. Look, I see a lot of birders. I guided for a festival last weekend. There's another one coming up this weekend. And I see them of all skill levels. The one thing beginners do wrong that more experienced birders don't is try to find a bird with their binoculars. No field of view. It's like looking at the world through toilet paper tubes. Keep making that mistake until you finally internalize that it's much easier to find the bird by watching for it and watching for movement and then putting up the binoculars. There's really only two categories of mistakes, those I made and those I'm about to make. One easy mistake to make is not having a whole category of birds in your head that you know are your trouble birds. The good thing about knowing you have trouble birds is that if you hear something you don't know, you can suspect it may be one of those. For instance, there's a yellow rump warbler singing just down the path here. That can be trouble because it's got sort of a weak song, sometimes goes up at the end, sometimes down, so variation drives people nuts. Same thing with American redstarts. They've got 3 or 4 different vocalizations they make, and they're all short and kind of pathetic. For a long time, when I was trying to learn birds by ear, I would just hear one of these and say to myself, oh, that's trouble. Really, you need your own list too, because magnolia warbler, chestnut-sided warbler can sound a little like those trouble birds, and they may be in your category. Not a bad walk so far. 9 black-throated green warblers, 8 magnolia warblers. Ever wonder why so many woodpeckers have that same black and white ladderback pattern? They don't want to get eaten. They know they can't outfly a Cooper's hawk or some other raptor, so they'll hug against the tree and try to look like bark. Why do male ducks go into eclipse plumage right after mating? Because they don't want to be eaten, so they want to be a little better disguised in their environment. Try to find the American woodcock in this picture. Look, birds are messing with you. It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, the first rule of all my trips and walks is be wrong fast. I'd rather quickly misidentify a bird, get everybody on it, and then correct the identification, rather than being too shy to say anything and miss it altogether. There's nothing embarrassing or wrong about making a mistake. That's how we learn. If you want some real fun, post up a photo on Facebook. Facebook is full of self-proclaimed experts. And some of them actually know what they're talking about. They might be able to help with an observation. Look, handle your mistakes any way you want to, but for me, the more embarrassing, the better. I don't remember all the ones I got right, but if I get one really wrong, that sticks with me forever, and I'm not likely to make that mistake again. Some mistakes you shouldn't make: letting your smartphone do all your work for you. I love some of my apps. I love Merlin, but Merlin makes mistakes. And besides, if Merlin does all the work, you don't learn anything. When it comes to remembering how to make a positive identification, usually the shortcut is the long way to get there. Don't let AI push you around. Make your own mistakes and own them. This may be a mistake. I'll let you decide. Spending too much on optics. Is there anything you can identify through a set of $3,000 binoculars that you can't identify through something a third of the price? Look, I'm willing to demo a set of free, top-of-the-line binoculars. Swarovski, you know where to find me. One mistake you definitely shouldn't make is leaving home without enough batteries. There's nothing worse than going out on a pelagic boat trip with all those photos and movies you might want to take and run out of juice a third of the way through. Final word: make more mistakes. It took Mozart 3 years to learn how to play piano. Of course, by that point he was 3. Let me think about that one.